Shemuel Aleph for 1 Samuel 13 and 14. Sha'ul was years old when he began to reign, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Sha'ul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, and 2,000 were with Sha'ul in Michmash and in the mountains of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Yonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent away, each to his tent. And Yonathan struck the watchpost of the Philistines that was in Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it. And Sha'ul blew with the shofar throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard the news that Sha'ul had stricken a watchpost of the Philistines, and also that Israel had become a stench to the Philistines. And the people were summoned to Sha'ul at Gilgal. And the Philistines gathered to fight Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And they came up and encamped in Michmash, east of Beth-awen. And the men of Israel saw that they were in trouble, for the people were distressed, and the people hid in caves and in thorny bushes and in rocks and in holes and in pits, and some Hebrews passed over the yard into the land of Gad and Galad. But Sha'ul was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he waited for 7 days, according to the appointment with Shemuel. But Shemuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Sha'ul said, "Bring an ascending offering and peace offerings here to me." And he offered the ascending offering. And it came to be, as he had finished offering the ascending offering, look, Shemuel came. And Sha'ul went out to meet him to bless him. Then Shemuel said, "What have you done?" And Sha'ul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, that you did not come within the days appointed, and the Philistines gathered at Michmash. So I said, the Philistines are going to come down on me at Gilgal, and I've not appeased the face of Jehovah. So I felt compelled and offered an ascending offering." And Shemuel said to Sha'ul, "You have been foolish. You have not guarded the command of Jehovah your Elohim, which he commanded you. For now, Jehovah would have established your reign over Israel forever. But now, your reign's not going to stand. Jehovah shall seek for himself a man after his own heart, and Jehovah shall command him to be leader over his people, because you have not guarded what Jehovah commanded you." And Shemuel arose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin, and Sha'ul mustered the people who were present with him, about 600 men. And Sha'ul and Yonathan his son and the people who were present with them remained in Gibeah of Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. And from the camp of the Philistines, raiders went out in 3 companies. The one company turned to the way that leads to Ophrah, to the land of Sha'ul, and another company turned toward the way of Beth-horon, and another company turned toward the way of the border that overlooks the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. Now, no blacksmith could be found in all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make swords or spears. And all Israel went down to the Philistines, each one to sharpen his plowshare and his mattock and his axe and his sickle. And the charge was a pim for the plowshares and the mattocks and the forks and the axes, and to set the points of the goads. And it came to be on the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people who were with Sha'ul and Yonathan, but they were found with Sha'ul and Yonathan his son. And the outpost of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. Chapter 14. And it came to be one day that Yonathan, son of Sha'ul, said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, and let us go over to the outpost of the Philistines, which is on the other side." But he did not inform his father. And Sha'ul remained at the outskirts of Geba, under a pomegranate tree at Migron, and the people who were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the priest of Yehovah in Shiloh, was wearing a shoulder garment. And the people did not know that Yonathan had gone. And between the passes by which Yonathan sought to go over to the outpost of the Philistines, there was an edge of a rock on one side and the edge of a rock on the other side. And the name of one was Botzets, and the name of the other Seneh. The one edge was on the north opposite Michmash, and the other on the south opposite Geba. And Yohanathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, and let us go over to the outpost of these uncircumcised. If so be, Yehovah does work for us. For there is no hindrance for Yehovah to save by many or save by few." And his armor bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart. Incline yourself. See, I am with you according to your heart." And Yohanathan said, "See, we are passing over to the men and show ourselves to them. If they say this to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we shall stand still in our place and not go to them. But if they say this, 'Come up to us,' then we shall go up, for Yehovah has given them into our hand, and this is the sign to us." And both of them disclosed themselves to the outpost of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, "See, the Hebrews are coming out of the holes where they've hidden." And the men of the outpost called to Yonathan and his armor bearer and said, "Come up to us and let us teach you a lesson." Then Yonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come up after me, for Yehovah has given them into the hand of Israel." And Yonathan climbed up on his hands and knees with his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Yonathan, and his armor bearer was putting them to death behind him. And that first smiting which Yonathan and his armor bearer struck was about 20 men in about half an acre of land. And there was trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The outpost and the raiders also trembled, and the ground shook, and it became a trembling of Elohim. And the watchmen of Sha'ul and Geba of Benjamin looked and saw the crowd melting away. And they went here and there, and Sha'ul said to the people who were with him, "Please inspect and see who's gone from us." So they inspected and saw that Yonathan and his armor bearer were missing. And Sha'ul said to Ahiah, "Bring the ark of Elohim here." For the ark of Elohim was with the children of Israel on that day. And it came to be while Sha'ul talked to the priest that the noise which was in the camp of the Philistines went on and became great. So Sha'ul said to the priest, "Withdraw your hand." And Sha'ul was called, and all the people who were with him, and they went to the battle. And see, every man's sword was against his neighbor, a very great confusion. And the Hebrews who were with the Philistines before that time, who went up with them into the camp, turned round, they too, to be with Israel, who were with Sha'ul and Yonathan. And the men of Israel, who had hidden in the mountains of Ephraim, heard that the Philistines fled, and they also pursued them in battle. Thus Yehovah saved Israel that day, and they passed over to Beth Awen. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Sha'ul had placed the people under oath, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food until evening, and I am avenged on my enemies." Therefore none of the people tasted food. And all they of the land came into the woods, and there was honey on the grounds. And the people came into the woods and saw the honey dripping, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Yonathan had not heard that his father had taken an oath of the people, and he stretched out the end of the rod that was in his hand and dipped it in a honeycomb and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes lit up. And one of the people said, "Your father strictly took an oath of the people, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.'" And the people were weary. And Yonathan said, "My father has troubled the land. Now see how my eyes lit up when I tasted a little of this honey? How much better if the people had eaten today of the spoil of their enemies which they found. For then would not the slaughter among the Philistines have been greater." And they struck the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon. So the people were very weary, and the people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and cattle and calves and slew them on the ground, and the people ate with blood. And they told Sha'ul, saying, "Look, the people are sinning against Yehovah by eating with the blood." And he said, "You've acted treacherously. Roll a large stone to me today." And Sha'ul said, "Scatter among the people and say to them, each one bring his ox near to me, and each one his sheep, and you shall slay them here and eat. And do not sin against Yehovah by eating with the blood." So every one of the people brought his ox with him that night and slew it there. And Sha'ul built a slaughter place to Yehovah. It was the first slaughter place he built to Yehovah. And Sha'ul said, "Let us go down after the Philistines by night and plunder them until the morning light, and do not leave a man of them." And they said, "Do whatever seems good to you." But the priest said, "Let us draw to Elohim here." And Sha'ul asked of Elohim, "Should I go down after the Philistines? Do you give them into the hand of Israel?" But he did not answer him that day. And Sha'ul said, "Come over here, all you chiefs of the people, and know and see what this sin was today. For as Yehovah lives, who saves Israel, though it be in Yonathan my son, he shall certainly die." But not one among all the people answered him. And he said to all Israel, "You be on one side, and my son Yonathan and I be on the other side." And the people said to Sha'ul, "Do what seems good to you." Then Sha'ul said to Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, "Give a perfect lot." And Sha'ul and Yonathan were taken, but the people escaped. And Sha'ul said, "Cast lots between my son Yonathan and me." And Yonathan was taken. Sha'ul then said to Yonathan, "Explain to me what you've done." And Yonathan explained to him and said, "I only tasted a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand. See, let me die." And Sha'ul answered, "Elohim do so and more also, for you shall certainly die, Yonathan." But the people said to Sha'ul, "Should Yonathan die, who has wrought this great salvation in Israel? Far be it. As Yehovah lives, let not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has wrought with Elohim this day." Thus the people ransomed Yonathan, and he did not die. And Sha'ul returned from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. And Sha'ul took the reign over Israel and fought against all his enemies round about, against Moab, and against the children of Ammon, and against Edom, and against the sovereigns of Zobah, and against the Philistines. And wherever he turned, he inflicted punishment. And he gathered an army and struck the Amalekites and delivered Israel from the hands of those who plundered them. And the sons of Sha'ul were Yonathan and Yishwi and Malchishua. And the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn, Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. And the name of Sha'ul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. And the name of the commander of his army was Abner, son of Ner, uncle of Sha'ul. And Kish was the father of Sha'ul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. And there was tough fighting against the Philistines all the days of Sha'ul. And when Sha'ul saw any mighty man or any brave man, he took him for himself.